Thank you for joining us. We have a winter storm that's going to be moving in tomorrow. Today is Tuesday, February 11th at about 2:15, so we want to give you an update on what's headed our way.
Another storm. This time not lake effect.
Yeah, for once, right?
Yeah.
So system snow is pretty interesting. We'll go ahead and go right to the map. You can see that we have an area of high pressure that's moving over Minneapolis, and then we have this big low near Denver, Colorado. That's what's going to be moving towards us, and the speed of which is going to be starting to push snow into our region, likely starting tomorrow, especially in the afternoon. So here's a look at the winter alerts that we have right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. It looks like just within the last few minutes they've upgraded the lakeshore in Wisconsin, I assume because of an easterly wind at the onset of the storm. But northern Indiana has issued a winter weather advisory along the state line, and we are waiting to see what the Grand Rapids office decides to do for us. But for now, we have a winter storm watch that remains in place.
Yeah, as a reminder, a watch is like the initial heads up. It just lets everyone know, hey, there's something coming. But once we get the warning, that's when the trigger is actually pulled and we start to fine-tune the forecast. Now, of course, we've already been trying to fine-tune the forecast ourselves. We've been watching this system for about a week now in the forecast models, and it looks like the winter storm timeline is still on track.
Yeah, if anything moved up a few hours, but for the most part, it still looks like Wednesday night into early Thursday will be the highest impacts.
Yeah, highest impacts being hazardous travel. So we tried to outline for you on this timeline what to expect when you wake up on Wednesday morning. It's likely going to be cold and mostly dry. Likely going to be seeing single-digit wind chills. So if you have travel concerns Wednesday morning, you really should be fine. And then Wednesday afternoon is when we're likely going to start to see the snow arriving. It's going to be moving in from west to east, so it's going to be pushing in from Lake Michigan. And we are going to see it gradually get worse and worse as we go through the day.
Yeah, it looks like the main time frame for the heaviest snow is going to be between about mid-afternoon Wednesday to late evening. So probably about an 8 to 10 hour window where we have the highest snowfall rates across most of the area.
And it does look like some of the snowfall rates could be near an inch an hour. I know that might not sound like that much if you're just watching your backyard, but for plows, that's substantial.
Yeah.
That's a lot of snow that stacks up. So that's why we are expecting the commute to be difficult for Wednesday evening and then through that overnight time frame, because the plows will already be trying to keep up, temperatures dropping. And then Thursday, we kind of transition over to a lake effect portion of this system, and it gets a little breezy as well.
Yeah, I think we'll have some blowing snow issues with gusts about 30 miles per hour. This system snow is fluffier than a lot of other system snows we get because the temps are colder. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to have an impact into Thursday.
Here's the timeline for you, and this is the Futurecast that we believe is performing the best. Notice the winds out of the east to start this system out. As Blake mentioned, that might actually add some lake enhancement over on the other side of Lake Michigan. Colorado low starts to, I've been struggling saying Colorado low lately. Colorado low starts to swing in, and we are in something called the deformation zone with this system, which is usually where you see the biggest snowfall total. So this is Wednesday, 2 o'clock.
Yeah, and again, the evening commute tomorrow is not going to be fun. There's no doubt about that. See that steadiest snow through late evening, and it does begin to taper off, although again, with the colder temperatures, there's no doubt some of the side streets are going to remain impacted into the morning. Now you see the low passing likely right around Toledo. There have been some minor wiggles in that track, but for the most part, I think we're pretty solidified that obviously not only are we on the colder side of the system, but pretty close to the low track, and that the most intense snow stripe will probably fall somewhere here in West Michigan.
Yeah, something else that we've been noticing is a lot of the wintry mix is now fully edging over into Canada and Ohio. We likely won't see much, if any, in West Michigan at all. There's Thursday. You can see the winds coming in off of Lake Michigan, and that's when we transition. You might actually notice that the snow type is different, too, compared to what we saw with this the system snow earlier on. So as Blake was mentioning earlier, blowing, drifting, likely seeing lake effect continuing through Thursday afternoon. A lot of people I know are asking about school closings. I know you have an official forecast that's going to be coming up today.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, gosh.
Yes. We've still got another day to go. It feels like it's been an eternity. But I think it's tricky because the few hours that the system has seemingly sped up could have an impact in that they could be able to get the roads a little clearer. Still, I think the sheer amount of snow, 5 to 8 inches across most of West Michigan, especially for those rural districts, that will probably be enough.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good call. And of course, you watch those districts closely.
Yes.
You know the road network, there's a lot of layers in there.
Very much so.
So we will be tuning in for that as the system changes. 5 to 8 inches, that is a steady thump of snow. All of us hopefully having to get out our shovels at least a little bit. It's good for us here in West Michigan to get our shovels out. This is really helpful. This is looking at a few specific locations and looking at the different forecast models, just so you can see, like, okay, you picked one model, but what are they all saying? This was the one for Grand Rapids, and it's looking fairly consistent.
Yeah, 5 to 8 seems like a pretty steady theme here. There have been some slight wiggles, up and down, but I think it's zoning in now. And I think 7.5 to 8 inches, maybe a touch on the high end, but I definitely think at the very least 5 to 7 is a pretty safe range for I-96.
What I like when I see this is it helps give me much more confidence in at least the 5-inch total, right? When a lot of the models are trying to occasionally exceed that number, it's like, okay, it's a pretty safe bet we're at least going to get 5. Here's Kalamazoo, same story. It's looking like that 5 to 7-inch sweep.
Yeah, and then Muskegon is just a little farther north, so totals are ever so slightly lower. But again, you see the floor, according to these models, is still 4 to 5 inches.
Yeah, looking at some of the temperatures and
this
also,
is actually a trend.
Yeah,
so looking at the model runs,
I
the
love
two
this,
main
Blake.
ones. So the bottom one is the American model, the top is the European, and you can see that it has trended down a bit since yesterday, but it started to pick back up or level off.
Yeah.
So this lends our confidence too into that. The system is essentially solidified, and the potential for significant snow is solidified.
This is new. Great job.
Yeah, well,
Blake made this.
We didn't show the models on TV yesterday, but they were substantial.
Yeah.
Very substantial. I mean, showing some foot plus total potential.
Right.
Now, obviously, that's not the case anymore, but it is helpful to see the trend moderate.
Yeah, and just to Blake's point too, this is why we don't necessarily always give you the numbers right away, because sometimes we know that they will change, and we don't want you to plan on 11 inches of snow Monday afternoon and then find out Tuesday morning that it had dropped, and then Tuesday afternoon it swung back up. So there is a method to the madness, so to speak. We like to be in consensus before we give you the number that we are most likely confident about. Even this morning I was texting Blake and I was like, it started to shift a bit, and he's like, yeah, let's wait for that 12Z run, and there you have it, Tuesday midday. It's starting to even back out. I really like that. Thank you, Blake.
Yeah, of course the other element to this is that temperatures are going to be colder than what we typically see with these sort of systems. This starts at 7 o'clock Wednesday, continues overnight, and temps near 20 should yield pretty efficient snow to liquid ratio. So basically meaning we get more bang for a buck, more snow for the liquid that we're going to have with this system. And then you see the wind chills are in the low teens through Wednesday night, and then they drop into the single digits on Thursday as the wind actually picks up. We start to see gusts. It's maybe a bit conservative, gusts up to 30 miles per hour with sustained winds at about 10 to 15.
Yeah, breeziest time frame does look like once we get that wraparound lake effect, the northwest flow, and you can see that here with the timeline. So we will be watching for blowing and drifting, especially in some of the rural areas, some spots that don't have as many of those snow breaks to the winds. And this is not the only system that we're watching this week. We also have one that's moving in Saturday, Sunday, and this one also could drop a nice, decent amount of snow, so several inches of accumulation. I know that it says 20% for Friday, that's during the day part. We do expect that this next system will likely start to move in overnight Friday into Saturday. That could impact some weekend plans for you. So we will be jumping in and fine-tuning to that one as well as we get closer to it. But it's been kind of nice that we have an active pattern here, keeping us on our toes.
We talked about it. Now it's actually happening where we're not just tracking lake effect anymore. So it's exciting.
Model data continues to change, and we continue to keep you updated. So here is our discussion, again, for just our online purposes, but we are on live at 4, 5, 6, 7 p.m. at Wood TV, and then again at 10 and 11. You can also find us at any time at woodtv.com for those detailed forecast discussions. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the snow.